Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, coming at you with just a quick stream today, as we did have some news today that I think is very noteworthy for your Seattle Seahawks. As well, I've got some thoughts on actually getting down and seeing my first training camp practice. It was a tale of two cities, if you will, as far as the practice goes, as far as the two sides of the ball. But we're going to get into some of the training camp details and some of the things that I got to see today being out there on the berm. But we started off with some unfortunate news for your Seattle Seahawks. Just a week after we got snake bit by the news of Kenny McIntosh being out for a year, we come to learn that our starting left tackle, our blindside tackle, Charles Cross, is going to undergo finger surgery on his ring, I guess this one, it'd be his right hand, his ring finger on his right hand. Going to get the surgery done, get it corrected. The thought process is that the team is going to have him back by game one. But there is really no kind of upending this around it other than to say, look, you really wanted the chemistry and the continuity of this team in training camp to lock in, and understanding that that is one of the hallmarks of what makes a great offensive line. Great offensive lines are not built with revolving doors at every different stop, after every different rep, over and over again. You got to get these guys thinking on the exact same page. And so losing Cross throughout this training camp now, as you're trying to install this completely, entirely new offensive system, is a bit of a bummer. There's no way about it. It's nice that you do get him back as far as by the regular season. And, you know, he's got his legs and all that, so he should be good to go. It's an injury that you should be back to nearly 100%, you would think, just about by that point. As to why he's getting this, look no further than a Brian Baldinger and his pinky turned sideways. There's numerous NFL players that will have stories about their fingers having the issues that Charles going through, not getting it corrected, and then the thing just ends up turning into Gumby after a while, you know, bending back and forth, and it just doesn't ever recover, and then it just looks kind of freakish. So you get the surgery to make sure that it doesn't happen. Ray Roberts clicking in with his own jacked up finger there to show what happened with him on the same kind of way of it. So it has been in the past. Players will sometimes just kind of play with this, but that is not without a price you have to pay, and playing with those fingers kind of messed up like that. So it does make sense that they get the surgery done here. If this was regular season week 2, you probably have him play through it. But if you've got a little bit of the opening for time here to allow him to then get it resolved, then at that point you feel perfectly fine with rolling at that direction of things. So this is, it's not going to be devastating on this news-wise, that's for sure. But it's not great news as well, especially, again, with McIntosh's injury. Hopefully these aren't going to start piling up. Michael Jarrell now goes out, and he's going to be given his opportunity to be able to go out there and hold up over there at left tackle. He did, I think, reasonably well today, as I think he was out there quite a bit of the time today on that side of it. And this isn't a panic thing at all, but it is a little bit of it's a tiny bit of a concern to where, again, just relating it back into where you want this offensive line to be in sync, on the same page. And knowing that the past few years, as I spoke about in the video I dropped a couple hours ago, past years with your Seattle Seahawks offensive lines, one of the reasons those lines have gone into a downward spiral as the year went along is that you didn't ever have a real forged starting offensive line as you went through training camp. You were constantly trying this guy here and that guy there, and let's put this guy over here, and let's rotate this guy in there today. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this shakes out around the rest of the offensive line. Hopefully the rest of the offensive line can find its footing, and then he just slides right back in, and it's no problemo. The practice today was a fun event. The Blue Angels flying overhead, beautiful weather. It's a little bit earlier in the day, so it wasn't as brutally hot as it sometimes can be out there on the berm. Got a chance to take it on in there with Dan Bienz. And we just kind of got a chance to watch practice in full and get a few little things I can kind of give you as far as some of the tidbits from practice that I think stood out. First off, early on in practice, you had the receivers running two-man concept routes. It wasn't pure rub routes, but what you were doing was you were running the receivers down in routes to basically same or similar section of the football field to one side of the field. And then what you would do is the quarterback would have a choice of one or the other, and then who they throw to, the second guy ideally is trying to react to get up there and try to block that guy that's covering the guy the ball is thrown to, while at the same time potentially pinning his guy because you just kind of got to get a 2-for-1 on this kind of deal if you block it right. And it was kind of cool to see them early on working through that in practice on how to get that timing just right, where you're making the catch and your other guy is in there laying that block instantaneously. It's a bang, bang kind of situation, and they were really trying to run it to somewhat of kind of perfection today early on in practice, and it was pretty cool to see on that side of it. The one-on-ones, we didn't get a good view of it. They had those guys way over on the far side of the field, so it was hard to get much of a view as to, who was winning and who was losing over there. It was definitely intense, at least as far as it looked over there. From the quarterback standpoint, Sam Darnold was the most in control today, the best overall today. Drew Lock had some moments in there. Jalen Milro. Okay, so with Jalen, let's unpack the Jalen stuff here. Number one, let's start out with the good and the positive with Jalen. On the positive side, the throwing delivery from the arm up action and the release has gotten tighter. He has got it essentially, as it's kind of being put together from a composite, the quickest delivery probably of any of the quarterbacks on this roster. Darnold's got a little bit of a wind up. Lockmore just kind of locks it into the back and goes. This is coming up and out, the old Dan Marino style. It's the most efficient way to deliver the ball as a quarterback. It means that when you're not winding up, you're not giving the quarterback that opportunity to realize the throw is coming my way, and now I can drive on that route. When it just comes up and it comes out with some velocity, now the ball's just on top of the cornerback in the receiver's hands before he's even had a chance to react. So the quickening of the motion from the up to the out is very nice. I'm still seeing some JT O'Sullivan heel clicking in the pocket when he's going back into his drop. He's still having to really think about the footwork as he's kind of going through it. It's not natural. You can see him kind of processing as he is, going through it. What he's seeing on the football field is still very muddled. He's a rookie quarterback. You would expect this. This isn't a surprise. It's not about Jalen and where he's as a player as much as he's a rookie quarterback here. Everything is coming at him really fast, and he's trying to kind of, catch up here a little bit along the way. But you could see at times in there that he was a little bit, this is a bit much on some of what I'm seeing, especially when they brought some of the stacked boxes and the pressure fronts up on him, as Mike Macdonald was in his bag today defensively as far as those pressure fronts go, which we will get to in just a second. Unfortunately, also on the other side of it, the throws were wildly inconsistent from Jalen Milro today. There was an out route throw down in the end zone in a red road drill, which was a thing of beauty, put on the right spot. They come back to the other side of the red zone, and he hits another kind of out-breaking route there, puts it right on the right spot with some velocity, smooth looking spiral, everything looking good there. Then you have him in the 7-on-7s where you're kind of throwing on air. There's no pass rush pressure on you, and he's getting confused. And he does that thing where he's like, not sure if he wants to throw the ball. I shouldn't, maybe I should. Oh, I got it. I threw it. Almost had an interception right there in the practice on 7-on-7s right there. The cornerback dropped it. He should have caught it. And then you came back later on, and Nick Emawari got him again. I haven't seen the play whether or not Emawari was lined up on the outside of the play or whether I think he was in the slot and they were running a little slot fade route. But Emawari stacked it up like Richard Sherman would and just completely had that ball all the way. There was no separation from the receiver there, and Milro just kind of threw it like a trust pass a little bit, but it was a clean pick by Nick Emawari, who had a really good day too as a pass rusher. He showed up in that way where they were blitzing him a lot, and he was coming off that edge, and he was looking comfortable doing it. But I would say that Jalen had overall kind of a rough day, all things considered. I love the throwing motion, the delivery coming up a little bit higher and tighter and quicker out. That's something that he certainly can build upon. He's probably the best read option guy on the team of any of the quarterbacks, in that he's the guy that is really good at like faking you out as to whether or not he's giving the running back the ball or whether he's keeping it. He had me tricked on a couple of plays in this practice, and he was able to bust out a couple of nice little runs on the back of that. One of the reasons I think that the main usage for him when they bring him in on those plays, it'll be maybe 6% of the plays a game here and there just to give him a little bit just as kind of a curveball for defenses. I think what they're going to probably do is a lot of that shotgun read option stuff, because you can see how that's going to be very hard on defenses with him and his mobility, and he's very good with that ball action at hiding that ball away and making it kind of disappear for a moment and then pulling it back out. No, he's got it, and he's 20 yards down the football field. So the offense in general as well, when it came to the run game, nothing was really rolling too much. It seemed like the yards were few. The defensive line felt like they controlled the line of scrimmage today throughout the day. There was maybe one run that was kind of nice by Walker, but everything else just felt grindy and muddled, and it was a battle in there for them to kind of find anything in there. This defensive line is definitely ahead of the offensive line. This defense is definitely ahead of this offense right now. There's no two ways about it. I struggled to understand quite whether or not what I saw today was an offense that is just still finding its way, or whether it's more about the dominance of a defense that where it's rising to and what it's becoming. That is this not, if you have a defense that's top 5, let's say in the sport, that this is what it's probably going to do to its offense in practice quite a bit. I'm sure the LOB years certainly had a lot of representations of this when they were at the height of their powers. So I don't really want to get freaking, I'm not by any means freaking out with it to the offense, but just trying to understand kind of to what I saw today was so much of the difference you saw between those two units. Last year when I was here at training camp, it was a little bit more tete-a-tete. It was a bit more tit for tat. It was, we get you here, we got you there, you get us here, kind of goes back and forth a little bit. Today, defense was absolutely hammering it, and it was a variety of guys. Byron Murphy goes in and makes a play on the run. Leonard Williams goes in and makes a play on the run. The defensive linemen were active. Ivy was in on there. Tyreek Smith, some of the back-end roster guys were getting it done on their side in the run game as well. There was no better defender, though. There was no better defender on the football field, even with Mclaurin as good as he was. The Demarcus Mother effing Lawrence. That guy was a man amongst boys. I seriously must have made 5 plays in the running game throughout this practice, and he wasn't even in there on every rep. But they just could not block him. And it wasn't just that he was beating up on Josh Jones, it was Abraham Lucas. And they could not keep him blocked in the run game. They were lining him over on the strong side of the formation as that power edge, and he was just whooping butt and doing it in kind of a variety of ways. He goes to the outside, he did a cross-face move to get back on the inside of it. But a lot of why you couldn't get the running game going had to do with him being so stifling as a run defender. Just nowhere to go. The guy was utterly dominant in that way in this practice, and just I guess part of the reason why McDonald was talking about him as being one of the better practice players that he had come across, because it was just it was very impressive. I've not been to a lot of practices, but there wasn't any practice last year I remember going to with a single defender in the run game doing that much. Admittedly, Ryan Grubb was throwing the ball quite a bit last year, so there wasn't as much of that. There wasn't as much of that run to see necessarily, but. A tale of two situations out there as far as this practice goes. They did some drill work as far as kick returns go and worked on some of that stuff. There wasn't one kick returner that looked better than anybody else. They have Zach Charbonnet back there doing a heavy amount of it. So I'd reckon to guess that unless somebody else can rise to the occasion with this, we've wondered who's the guy going to be back there now that McIntosh is out. I would reckon to guess that's probably going to be Zach Charbonnet as the guy that is going to ascend into that spot and take over that job at this point. Unless one of these young cats under there that are more kind of the back end roster guys can find some footing there, but they didn't look like a difference maker to me versus him on it. He looked like he could do it, and it'll be just fine with him back there. Opportunity to get him some more touches too if Walker's able to stay healthy and out in the field kind of 24/7 this year, which would be very, very nice. Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp are still working on the kinks of the chemistry. There was one 9 route that Cooper Kupp ran down the sideline, and Cooper Kupp definitely dogged it on the route. He had determined on the route halfway in that the ball's not coming my way. Then he realized that Sam Darnold was looking his way. Then he tried to reignite his ignition switch and get the RPMs back up. It was too late. The ball was already out where Sam was throwing it like he was running full speed and it ended up landing incomplete. But Sam threw a really good ball on that. As a vet there in practice from a Cooper Kupp standpoint, you can't just sort of think that the ball's not coming your way and you kind of give up on it, which is a little bit of what he'd done play there. A couple other plays where they just weren't quite in sync on where the throws were throwing into on. A little late, a little bit not in the right spot. So those guys are still kind of trying to find their way a little bit here. But Coop looked good as far as the blocking goes, especially those 2-man drills they were running when he was getting in there and picking a guy after a guy made a catch with him and JSN. It's going to be kind of neat with them, I think, with some of the concepts where they'll bring those two guys. And used to be in NFL, it was a cardinal sin to have 2 receivers in the same spot. But if you're doing it on purpose and you got some reason or situation for why you're implementing it, that's that once one guy makes the catch, we got the other guy there to serve as a blocker. It's kind of a cool little twist on what you can do on the short and intermediate game to extend those throws, those catches after the run at that point, just through a little subtle blocking technique. Good day of practice, though. It was very intense. A little bit too many guys for my money on the ground. I don't know, in that sense, where it's like, is this too? We need to dial back this a little bit because there's a couple of guys falling down the ground where you're just kind of holding your breath for a moment as they get up, and they're kind of getting up a little bit like, oh, I'm like, I hope that wasn't serious. Hold in here, guys. Hang in here. So a good day of practice, fun day out there. The Blue Angels ripping over the head as you're watching practice is something else. It's such a cool thing to be out there on the water like that, and they're just doing what they do. Probably just be a little quick show in and out today. I want to chop it up with you guys a little bit, but we will be back again on tomorrow after we get if we do the practice tomorrow. I'll be doing probably a live stream after that. So just want to pop on here really quickly and get a little bit of the reporting on the Charles Cross news. Get some of your guys' thoughts on it as well, so your guys' heads at with it. Not a huge monstrous deal, not a backbreaker deal. He's coming back, and again, his legs will be fine. They'll keep him in good shape and all that, so you're not worried there. But you just never like guys going down to injury when you're trying to work a unit and really refine that unit down to getting them on fully the same page. One other last note, definitely still kind of uncertainty when it comes to the center position. Christian Haynes has got to work on his snaps. For those of you out there that were worried about snaps going over the quarterback's head, if Christian Haynes is in there this year, that's going to happen. Sundell's being used all over the place, including over at right tackle today. A heavy amount of right tackle snaps over there, and he acquainted himself well. I don't think he's a right tackle, but there does seem to be a real purposeful nature behind the team right now in trying to find that role in place for Sundell on this active roster. That's just kind of the way it seems with how much they are moving him around to make him that ultimate piece that they can kind of use everywhere and give them a little bit of an insurance policy, if you were. Let's see where you guys are at, though, today. Alan says, you serious? Cross is injured? Yeah, unfortunately. He should be back, though. CR, hello from Germany. Just saw Terry Mclaurin requesting a trade out of Washington. Would be a perfect fit for us. Would you pull the trigger? What would it cost? We are having the cap space. It's a tough one for me to pull. I love Terry McLaurin, Sierra. So this is where it's, you become biased onto something towards a player where there's a player you're just like, I like this guy. I just really like this guy. And that is where I stand with McLaurin. But I do think that the way that you're building this football team and the nature by how you're looking to put this team together is one where you want to run the ball. You're going to use a lot of 12 personnel. You're not going to be high volume in your approach and how much you pass the ball, CR. And then the other thing is we've got to remember that we've got the JSN decision coming and looming after this season. So you go and you sign a Terry McLaurin for $30 million a season right now on a trade, because he came out in the very same draft that DK Metcalf came out of, and I don't see how he doesn't request at the very least the same kind of contract. And then you're going to go pay $30 million to JSN next year. Is that smart way to spend money there at that position when you're not going to be as pass happy as a team? And I would reckon to guess that that's more of the overriding decision that pushes this in the direction of it being a no, less than it being about CR, that the fact that I'm sure John likes him as a player and that understands, like you say, would be a great fit to the team. It's just you look across the league, and the Bengals became the very first team this offseason to kind of pay two receivers at the high water mark salary-wise. Everybody else in the league will pay one guy and then kind of get by at the other position for the most part. And so that's or they have a first-round pick, they have like a young first-round pick in there, or they're doing like the Eagles are, and they're just burying the void money into 2052. It's kind of one of those things. Alex says, football's back. Yes, I'm ready for Seattle football. Let's go, Hawks. Seattle all day long. Let's go, Alex. Get it. I love the doinks. Oh, by the way, Jason Myers today, we might be in for a doctor. We might be in for Mr. Hyde. We might be in for Mr. He kept pushing the thing right. And even when he would make it, he was still pushing it right. I was like, my God, man. It's like when you got that slice in golf. Just turn your body the other way and just lean into the slice today. Holes this way, you turn yourself this way. And then the slice just curves right back around dead middle by the time that it gets down the middle of the uprights. Yeah, Ever Calderon, it's going to be okay with Charles Cross. It's noteworthy news, but it's not a backbreaker stuff, Do I think the Hawks will make a huge trade? I've kind of thought there is a trade coming. I don't know if it's the McLaurin one necessarily, but I do feel like John's kind of eyeballing something else to be done. So I can't speak that something's going down necessarily, other than just my gut is that they, with this cap space they have ever, as I've said, they've never had this amount of cap space at this point in training camp. I don't think in any point in time of John Schneider's tenure. And I think that's notable that he's not a guy that's going to leave that much powder dry. There's leaving powder dry, and then there's leaving all of your powder dry almost. And I think there's a little bit of that going on here. So I think they will get something done. Josie says, yep, Terry turning 30 in September. That does make it a little bit more complicated too. And again, with his production, how can he not say that I should be paid every bit of a dollar that DK Metcalf got paid? Fan with the Bengals? I did see that, yeah. It's good for, or at least he was visiting with him. I guess he finally signed. CR says, I really want us to have one swing with our current cap space. Should be enough to extend Cross and some other 23 players while paying one new player big and backloading their contract. I agree with you, CR. I think you're in a position right now to be able to get that swung. And again, you've got more than enough money. I think some people get caught up on this thinking that you have to do one or the other, that we have to save this $40 million of cap space this year, that we've got top 7 cap space in 2026, top 10 cap space in 2027 with a bunch of guys we could cut out and free up to create up even more space. I mean, so you're essentially sitting on top 5 de facto cap space for 2027 as well. We got plenty of money to be able to re-sign our guys, extend our guys, and then still go make another very aggressive trade. I'm about to choke. Jeez. Goodness, what happened? JRD, thank you for the $5 donation, JRD. Sorry I'm late. What happened to Cross? So Cross, these guys get in their pass sets. And most of the time, as I understand it, with the fingers will sometimes slide up into the helmet, or they'll get into the crack here of the pad, and then it gets stuck and it gets twisted. And so the ligament will get in there and kind of get, the bone will get knocked out or displaced in a weird angle and way. And the only way to do it is you got to get the surgery to relock the bone back in. But it's a very common thing with these offensive linemen. Their hands come up, that your hand just gets caught in a crevice, moving that violently and that hard. And you can't always prepare yourself to protect yourself on that. So it's a common injury. He could have played through it, but if he had played through it, it would have looked like Brian Baldinger's finger right here, but only on Charles Cross's middle finger. So I think we'd all make the same choice, wouldn't we? I mean, if it's real games we're playing, but I just missed training camp and then I'm back by game 1. Yeah, I'll do that so that my finger doesn't have to look like it's like somebody took the bone out of my finger. There's just skin left. Bryce Coots in the house. What's up, bros? Good to see you, brother. I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you on Saturday or tomorrow. I'm going to see you out there tomorrow. Says, hey, Brandon, I cannot wait to meet you this weekend and talk Hawks with you, man. I can't either, brother. It was awesome today chopping up with Dan up on the berm, and he said you're going to be there tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to seeing you out there tomorrow, man. Get out nice and early. Just hang out there, take it all in, and have some fun with it. You know what I mean? But Saturday is going to be a ball too, bro. I'm going to get down there super early to Seattle on Saturday. Just go down, kind of walk the city, Bryce. Drink it in. Haven't been down in a while here to my city, so I got to get back in and just kind of get that Emerald City back in my lungs. You know what I mean? Elevate says, I knew D-Law was the truth. He's my favorite Seahawks player. Monster. Just a monster out there today. It was wild to watch how much he was disrupting and taking apart run play after run play. Sims was back there in the returner battle, Bryce, but I think that if you're going to be a guy that's going to upend a running back that's back there, because if you're going to be a specialized guy like Jaden Durden was and you're going to hold the roster spot unto yourself solely for your special teams returnability, then you've got to be kind of difference making with that returnability, because the roster is going to be so stretched as far as the final 53 men, with having an extra quarterback on the roster, with having the fullback on the roster. You're going to be pulling from some other places. And I think the ideal from the Seattle Seahawks standpoint on this would be to have a kind of a de facto semi-starter like a Charbonnet basically out there handling the duties there. Charbonnet and a Horton. And then Horton takes over maybe the punt return duties. So I didn't see, they did a lot of the kick returns today. It wasn't all well blocked up, so there wasn't a lot being given to these guys to get it done, Bryce. But with that said, I didn't see a burst or a speed from any of those returners outside of Charbonnet that looked all that different from Charbonnet. CR still want us to address the edge somewhat with Nwosu out. Lawrence can fill a bit, but rather trade for a long-term Nwosu replacement. I'm open to that. I thought that's where they could potentially target here, CR. And there is the Jadeveon Clowney situation still remaining where maybe they bring out Clowney's still not signed. Maybe you go and bring him in here. It just seems like too easy of a fit there. But I wouldn't mind seeing that as well. Josie says, like Sharps is a returner. Love to see him run with a full head of steam. I am too, man, because you're right. Once he gets up a full head of steam, he becomes a power back. He's not a power back in short spaces, but you get him up with that speed going full, and he is a load. A load. And is that not what you're doing with kick returners? Did you give him that 10 yards of speed and just let it go? And he could be effective with that. I could see him definitely finding a role within doing that. That third down back, get a couple of carries, and then you begin him plenty of touches to get productivity from that second round status at that point this year. Spaces, what about Horton? I didn't see a lot of Horton that stood out today on the football field. I don't know if he was a little limited in practice. There was a little bit more of seeing like Ricky White out there, for instance. And Ricky looks a little bit bigger than I thought he was going to look. I thought he was a lot more thinly built out there at UNLV, but I could not spot a lot of, he was out there a bit, so he was practicing somewhat, but I just didn't spot a lot of him doing a lot out there. Catalyst says, I love how MOR is so opportunistic. Absolutely. Catalyst, he's got hands, man. It was a legit pick that he had to go make on a deep ball with some decent velocity there from Milro. And the cool part about it is he not only makes the interception, but he's playing, his technique is also correct. He's in the right position. He's in the right place in coverage as well in addition to that. And I'll tell you what, McDonald, you guys, he literally at one point in practice ran like, I swear it felt like 8 straight stack box blitzes. 8 straight stack box blitzes. Like Mike was like, here you go, offense. What do you got? It's coming. What do you got? No hiding, no disguising, just one play after another. Where I go to, maybe the defense is just that dominant, but the offense could do nothing with it. Those stack boxes came. You had MOR screaming off the edge on a blitz, and the quarterbacks were just wide-eyed, and they were confused, and some of the snaps would be a little bit dodgy in addition, which just didn't help matters. So it was kind of wild what Mike did today with the blitzing stuff. He wasn't going that hard with it last year. We're going to definitely be blitzing more this season, I think. It was pretty crazy. It was like this 8-play sequence where I was like, damn, Mike, give the offense a break, brother. Dogzilla, did you find Mary's Nest on Street Corner in Renton last night? I didn't. I got sidetracked, though, little Dogzilla. I'm not going to lie. I got sidetracked a little bit. I think I ended up back down at Dino's last night. I think I might head back down there tonight. Get myself another beer. I like the ambiance down there. Besides, I like our new safety Bell. I like that guy. I watched him do an interview. He's just a cool dude. Yeah, he's been making plays too. There was another guy who made a pick in the back of the end zone on Drew Lock in the game today and ran a pick 6. I don't know if he would have gotten the full pick 6 back, but it was a real nice play he made. Yeah, Nicholas, it's brutal with McIntosh, man. Definitely sad to see a guy's going to get maybe start to finally get some opportunities, getting knocked out like that. Two 06, David, how you doing, man? King Bomber says not the greatest of outcomes when chemistry has been a major issue. And that's why that's the most thing I'm worried about. It's not really the health of Cross. It's the chemistry of the offensive line and understanding that part of the issues of the chemistry of the offensive line in recent years has been your lack of finding continuity. Being able to just ride with the starting 5, make a determination, and roll with it. Bryce, you guys are at Mill Creek tomorrow night? I thought you were down in Seattle. You're in Mill Creek. Maybe I can get down there. Alan Brandon, how is Anthony Bradford coming along from what you saw? He was kind of a guy out there. He was definitely getting a lot of instruction from the offensive line coach, one-on-one instruction. Um, he's athletic, but he is just a tiny bit slow out of his stance. Body-wise, he looks kind of the same to me a little bit. They've said he's gotten stronger or better shape. He didn't look bad by any measure on it, and it is sometimes hard with you have these stacked boxes, so you've got like 7, 8 defenders down there with the 6 offensive linemen. You have like 14 bodies just all like this. It would sometimes be hard to quite differentiate what was going on the interior line in there at that point. But they weren't getting any push, that's for sure. And the pass pro was hit or miss at times too. Mom in the house. What's up, Mom? She says, Pumpkin's watching. Have a beer on me. I will go down and definitely have a beer on you, Mom. And Mom's doing her son here a good by taking care of Pumpkin. So Pumpkin's got Grandma watching over her. And hey, Pumpkin. Thank you, HHG, for mentioning it. Please hit that like button if you can for me. It does help out the channel. I really appreciate it. I know I ask it all the time. You ask it all the time. But I do really appreciate it. It helps out the channel if you guys could for me. Hope everyone's having a great night. So good being back around in the Seattle area. King Bomber, how has Olu looked? I heard he had another good day. Staff seems to want Sundell out there, but Olu has played better and is undeniable out there. Well, if we're reading kind of between the lines on this one, King Bomber, to the heart of your question there a bit, Olu looked pretty good to me. Didn't see the bad snaps with him that were there a little bit. It did seem like they were fluctuating in Haynes when Olu was going out. And so you have 55 and 65 in there. So sometimes it gets a little bit hard to kite from the angle on the berm. I need binoculars a little bit to quite always see for sure there. But he seemed to be doing okay with it. I think it's also to your point on Sundell that rather than having him really doing much fluctuating in there at center today, it didn't seem like he was more guards tackle. And maybe that's a bit of a representation of them leaning in the direction of Olu being the guy at this point, that the competition isn't much about him there. It's much about you'll have Sundell as the backup center, and then Sundell will be your move piece around that offensive line. And you can have him fill in wherever you might have some injuries, and he can be comfortable doing so. That's what it seemed like based on today. I'm going to be definitely watching for more of it tomorrow, King Bomber, and I'll try to kind of lock a little bit more in on the center battle at that point. Haynes did have some brutal snaps today. Work in progress there on that. King Bomber says, seems like right guard's the only position they're really rotating with intent to start someone else. Yeah, Zabel's locked in at left guard. They're not bouncing Zabel around, which is cool. So he's not, you maybe wondered when he was drafted if that was going to be what they do if they weren't as sold on Oluwatimi. But they're not doing that. He's rocking left guard fully. They've got him locked in there. And even today, it was probably more of kind of your Bradford, Luamea snaps there at right guard, Sundell all over the place, moved around there. So it was there was some kind of spots that were better than others about things being just kind of them starting to maybe lock more of stuff in on it. Carmen, moms are awesome. And I got the best one. Mom, we got a question for you in the chat. Are you watching Pumpkin for the evening for us? Yes, she is. Take care of my girls. Should have brought Pumpkin to training camp. That would have been a hit. Can you imagine Pumpkin on the berm? Oh my gosh. AJ says Bradford having a rough time is what I heard. Definitely possible. You're trying to kind of only could lock on one thing or this thing at one point or another. And I was kind of, especially if I saw Milro out there, like my eyes were just watching Milro on every step and what he was doing. So I definitely got sometimes a little tunnel vision with what I was checking out. But I don't know. Was a lot of great days on that offensive line too. I'll say that. I mean, Olu might have been all right. Drell, so-so. Drell was bad. He wasn't awful, but there was a lot of penetration and push into the backfield. King Bomber says Haynes seems like a bust. I know it's early, but might be the first day one or day two missed by Schneider in 3 years, which is damn impressive. Amen, man. It's hard to hit all the way through your day twos every time. There's going to be misses that come up, and to me, when you have misses that happen, King Bomber, that are stupid on the face of it, that's when you can, I think, have a right to maybe drag the organization a little bit. So when Malik McDowell is universally being talked about through the league as giving some of the worst interviews that anybody has ever had at the combine, when he's got character concerns and risks coming out of Michigan State, and then you take a risk on that guy as a day two guy, that's one where it gets a little bit harder to be like, John, dude, what are you doing? But when you have a guy like this that was looked at universally as a very safeguard prospect, and I think team by team on this, I don't just think from a pundit standpoint or people like me that talk about this, but I think pretty universally by NFL teams, he was going to go somewhere into that third round, if not very early fourth round to somewhere. So it's a mistake many of others would have made on this one, and kind of weird that he's hasn't been ready to go on that they've got him now at center, which seems itself a little bit of a representation of the fact that they're not sold on him as a right guard, which is kind of strange because you don't exactly have the most exemplary of play from Anthony Bradford at the moment. Just have to see how it shakes out. We had a hairball incident today. Pumpkin would love Dan V and Bryce. She'd love up on both of them. The Dallas Cowboys. What's up, Brandon? Great stuff as always. Foosball is here. Awesome. 31-10 Eagles on September 4th. Oh, he's calling a shot. He's anti-Dak, but he's still feeling the dub. I like it, Dallas. I like that confidence. Let's go. Well, whatever can stop the Eagles from repeating. They've been to enough Super Bowls. They've done enough. They've had enough success. They can go to the back now. They can wait their turn. Get to the back of the line, Eagles. You've had your runs. Go back. Get back there with the Niners. Right behind the Niners. Yep, all the way back. All the way back. All the way. There we go. Best of luck, man. Can't believe they started you guys out with the Eagles. Of course, they started us out with the Niners. So. Yeah, Pooney hasn't looked as good in camp this year, reportedly. Or, like you say, it's the D-line just kicking ass, taking names. One of the two, right? Alan says, Brandon, what's up with Mike Morris? Haven't heard anything about him in a while. He's at an active camp. Not tearing the lid off, but I think he's been reported on as being pretty active prior to my days coming in here. I did have a chance to watch him on a couple of snaps. He does feel a little bit stronger than he has in recent years. I felt like sometimes coming off the edge with him at times that he could have a little bit of some weakness in the lower half, and you weren't always feeling that base to him because he's got to be a guy that works off power, and power is going to come from base. And sometimes with him that he couldn't always engage that fully. That I think it showed up a couple times today. They're using him outside inside, so he was standing up as a wide 9, and then they were kicking him in as a 3 tech at times too. So they're using the versatility in there with him. There wasn't anything that was sparkling about his day. He did get a good amount of run, but he was solid out there. He was around the ball carrier in the run game. He was pressing back into the pocket. He wasn't getting pushed around. 206B, Mclaurin wants a trade. What are your thoughts? I'd love to do it if we were running a grub system and grub system had been, of course, then maybe you're not moving DK at that point, but you're just running too much of a run heavy system to be able to look at it and say that we should be paying 2 receivers $30 million. And I wish we didn't have to make this decision with JSN on the horizon, but part of JSN doing what he's doing and probably replicating this year what he did last year is that he's going to earn that contract next year and you're going to have to pay it. And there's a reason when teams don't do things universally throughout the league. And so when we went out there and we paid Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs top of the market money, and we were the only team paying both safeties top of the market money, didn't work out in our favor. And maybe there in retrospect, there was a good reason why 31 NFL teams didn't do that either. And so I come back on this one time and time again to saying that if you have an offense that's going to throw the ball 40 times a game every game, yeah, sure. Having two receivers, you could make an argument for it. Certainly the Bengals who did this are going to be throwing the ball quite a bit this year as that defense is going to struggle to stop people, and they're not going to run the ball probably particularly well, and so it's going to be throw city. Makes sense. But we're going to be so run heavy that I think the team's just going to be better suited to pay kind of one guy, pay another guy in kind of a more of a middle-ish tier area like they are with Cooper Kupp, draft the young guys around them, get your tight ends in there that can be dynamic as well, and that's the way you want to run the offensive resource structure. But it's just you can't accommodate the two $30 million guys, and I at least I can't see it, and especially in light of this particular offense. But I love Mclaurin, David. Would be a move that had nothing to do about how good he is. I'm not worried about really his age. He's a complete dog. I've loved him since he's come out of Ohio State. In fact, I think he was my favorite receiver in that particular draft, one of my favorite receivers in that particular draft. So I'm in it, man. I would be with it in that way of it. But there's these other details, the finer tuned details on this just don't allow it to quite add up for me. CR says either just sign Clowney and call it a day, or trade for Parsons and send them Mafe or Hall. Yeah, Cowboys are still doing that thing where they're not quite paying, and you don't know if they are. And Jerry's still talking, and Steven's still talking. They're doing a lot of talking, not doing a lot of paying. Weird situation out there with Micah Parsons, man. It's ongoing now here as we're into almost August and still not a contract extension given to him. I've wondered with Clowney, CR, if maybe it's just, and people have posited this, that maybe it's a matter of he doesn't want to go into training camp. And so he knows he's kind of a gun for hire. And so he tells McDonald, look, I'll come in there, but you got to give me till August 12th. I want to take a little bit of training camp off, rest my body. So I'll be in there August 12th. He's a vet. He's been around the block. He doesn't need training camp maybe as much on that. Certainly the lack of training camp the year he came to us from Houston wasn't a limiting factor for him then. So I think that there's a little bit maybe that at play. Nagasa says at least we will have cap room for a trade in week 4 with 20 sacks in 4 games. Let's go. King Bomber, any update on Arroyo? He looked good out there. He was he moved well. He's smooth. He's got some suddenness to him. He's got some juice in the legs. He looks big. There wasn't a lot of utilization of him today. They were more trying to work the wide receivers just a bit today. But he was impressive in the little bit that I saw of him. I am excited for Torrey Horton too, their King. Just couldn't quite locate him all the time on the field today. And I think there's only so many receivers that can work. There's certain days where certain guys maybe just aren't getting as many reps. They had a lot of Cup and JSN out there working together today on the field at the same time. Yeah, Catalyst, I didn't like allocating that much to 2 safeties as well. And you can be brilliant and just ahead of the curve and zigging when everybody's zagging, but sometimes there's hard and fast rules that are rules for a reason. And I think when it comes to this receiver position, given the nature of the fact that receiver position is so valuable and everybody is looking for receivers, that you would think, logically speaking, there would be a multitude of teams that are basically paying 2 receivers at an incredibly high watermark of money. But there really isn't. And that means that there's probably a very good reason for why they're not choosing to do that. And I just backtrace it to, depends on the offense you run, depends on how much you throw. And even then, if you throw it a lot, there's a lot of pass-happy teams that still aren't spending that kind of money to that positional group. Those finite amount of funds just stretch you. Micah would be filthy in this defense. After watching today, you had Micah Parsons in this defense. I don't know who's scoring points on this defense. Watching them today, I was just like, whoa. This is a long day for the offense today right now. Man, it's just been a bad day for the offense. Thor got cut today, Bronze. I know you were hyped up for him, but I guess he barely knew you, man. They had him in on a revolving door. What's up, Megan? It's good to see you in the house. TheSeahawksNest, so just heard about my boy Cross. Ring finger injury. What happened? Probably could have got the helmet stuck. I mean, that's the way that it happens a lot, is that you get the finger into a helmet, hand gets high, finger goes in the helmet just jacks the finger around. It does happen in the pads, because there's sometimes those holes in the pads, where they've got so you can move your arm, so there'll be a little bit of a crevice there, and you get your hand in there, and it gets squished wrong or twisted wrong, gets stuck. It happens very often. But they're just, I think, as much, Megan, taking advantage of the fact that they have this preseason period to just get it fixed and fixed right. If it was regular season, he probably plays through it. But that you have the preseason to work with, you have that time frame to work with, they just go, okay, let's just get it done. Let's just knock it out. Yeah, King, I think signing Jadeveon would be a great move. You look at Uchenna and Jadeveon, and you basically look at them as an amalgamation of one player. That, okay, what is the combination of you two going to give us this year for that 4th edge? Can you give us some nice productivity in that? Yeah, I think they can. And if you can only get 10 games out of one guy, 10 games out of one guy and 7 games out of the other guy, 13 games out of one guy, 6 games, 7 games out of the other guy, so be it. That's just what we need. That would work. That'll do. CR says, Hawks Nest, just wanted to trigger your Jerry Jones impression with my Parsons comment. We're going to shine him now, JR. You're going to stop looking at my Micah. Stop glancing at my Micah, you little looky-loo. Out there peeping Tom and my Micah. Stop peeping Tom and my Micah. He's my Micah. He's going to sign. He's going to sign that 15-year contract now. You better believe it. Oh, he's going to sign. That's what Cowboys do. Carmen says, has Clowney already visited with the Seahawks in recent weeks, months? No, but there's no reason to until you're signing. You have the guy who visits who's never been in your program, never met with the coaches, that you don't know his background as much. You want to have a bit of the back and forth there to see if it's a fit. With Clowney and his familiarity with Schneider, his familiarity with Mike McDonald, they know both sides know what they're getting. I can guarantee you Clowney knows what he's getting coming to Seattle. And so it really just comes down to just, rather than taking kind of an empty trip up there to meet even though he knows he's not necessarily going to sign right now at the moment, he goes, I'll just kind of hold it off and wait a bit. It's a guess, though, that's for sure. Bron says, feel like the offense is going to struggle this season. Watch the line be amazing, but the rest of the offense stinks. That would be rough to watch. The line finally gets together, and then the other parts just kind of fall apart. And we'll see. I can't quite say for sure at this point. Having another day of practice tomorrow, being able to see the scrimmage game, that's going to give me some good sets of eyes on this progress of where this offense is at over a couple-day period. But defense won the day, and they won the day in pretty dominant fashion to me. I mean, a pick six, another interception with Mclaurin, another close interception down there. The offense was not just moving the ball down the field. There wasn't any real chunk plays to be had. It was rough. It was rough going. Megan says, with looking at my cross jersey and thinking I should wear it, I'll wait until he's back. Don't want to jinx anything. Yeah. No, don't want. You'll jinx it right now if you wear it with what's going on. You'll reinforce the energy of the injury energy. You'll reinforce that by wearing it right now. So it's like you're celebrating the state he currently is by wearing this. I don't make these rules, okay? It's just the nature of the universe. Chosen says, I'm taking the new backdrop, Brandon. Go Niners. You got to change it up. I figure Niner red, man. Let's go with the Niner red backdrop. It's only a matter of time. The conversion. Yeah, D-Law was giving it to Lucas today, Catalyst. Lucas was having his share of issues with it. And I think it's less about Lucas not being at the top of his game and more of just Demarcus Lawrence is that much of a problem when he's healthy. We are not sure that we're getting Clowney. That's totally a guess, Megan, about maybe bringing him into the 25th hour. But he does remain out there. There's no impending rumors of him signing anywhere else. CR says, Hawks Nest, Jerry Jones. Well, I guess it will be effing expensive as all the Cowboy players are all just Jerry, just a regular drama queen. We like a little drama down here. Gets eyeballs on us, CR. Gets them eyeballs watching us. Everybody in America. What are the Cowboys doing today? What the Cowboys up to today? Did they sign Micah? Did they sign CD? Is he talking stuff about his quarterback? I don't know, but it's going to be fun. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to beat the Cowboys. Larry says, question, if knock on wood K9 gets injured, do you think Kubiak would open up the Milro package? Ooh. It's a guess on this one, Larry, completely. So this is completely just shooting from center field, hoping I can get it there on one hop. I think with Milro, they're very locked in on the 2-year plan with him before he becomes potentially the starter, and then keeping him locked into the sort of that 6-7% of the offensive snaps you work him out there. And I don't necessarily think losing a K9 would then the draw would then be to bring him out there more often for the quarterback packages at that point, thus removing Darnold off the field that much more. I don't think they would do that. I think it's more likely you go and start to maybe look around the league for a running back at that point. Training camp comes up. If it happens then you're looking then. No, I think that they're very locked in, and smartly so for this, Larry, in that they've got a plan for Milro. They're going to execute the plan to precision, and they're going to let it take the time it's going to need to take. They're going to get something out of him immediately, but they're not trying to throw too much on him. And watching him today, I think that that's probably a pretty smart approach. He's got a long ways to go right now. He still does. And I'm hoping he can, but I think putting too much on him right now might end up in a bit of catastrophe. Yeah, Demarcus Lawrence right now is technically, I guess, it kind of depends, Herbicide, on what we're going to make the measurement on. D-Law is a better player than Clowney. I think certainly reputationally wise, D-Law's got a little bit more at his back on that front of things, whereas Clowney is looked at as a little more of the gun for hire. There's probably a little bit of differences in that there. I think that they're reasonably similar players in the way that they play and go about their business. And if you have both of these guys as your power edges on one side and then another power edge on the other side, you have two of the better run defending dominant edges in the sport at that point. And you're not giving offenses anywhere to go if they're trying to run the outside zone either to the weak side or to the strong side. But you are correct. Addicted. I will not comment on Haynes or Zabel until Brandon's Game 17 show. I will apologize to either player if they are a success. I will be mute on them until Game 17. Oh, don't do that. You don't do that, man. Catalyst, you really wanted Donovan Jackson simply because he went to Ohio State and not a smaller school? Oh, I think you're speaking to somebody else up there. Megan says, I hope Milro proves me wrong, but I am not hopeful. We'll see, man. I think, Megan, it's just if they can give him that time. He needs time. And you can see he's working on stuff and things are coming a little bit more forward here already in training camp. I can acknowledge that. But stuff has not been wholly fixed as everybody wanted to say in OTAs with him. There's a lot still left here that needs to be kind of corrected and fixed. And you're going to see folks seeing it today on the practice field. You're going to see it in preseason games. There are going to be the wow moments. Then there's going to be the double hand palm moments as well. You're going to get both of those, and that's okay. And if you get the both of those, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have that potential for success a couple years down the road, or eventually to round into a really, really fine quarterback in the sport. It means we got to do that thing that NFL teams don't like to do. We got to do that thing that NFL fans don't like to do, which is give the guy time to develop, and that doesn't happen with you throwing him out into the fire and saying, find a way to put this fire out. Instead, it is you let him prepare in the background, you let him learn from pros and vets, and then you can eventually have him be ready and be at his most ready to be at his best instead of kind of just basically surviving, which is, I think, what you would do right now with Jalen if you had him starting games. CR, at least Cross can now focus a bit to discuss what he would want for an extension with his agent. The NFL season started with a butt fumble. That's not a good sign. Megan says, I guess if I can wear my Cross jersey at the moment, I can pull out my Pete throwback. Oh, Pete, you're in safer territory with the Pete throwback. Kieran, what do you mean, please don't comment on the game? Dune says, Coobs and the offense have their work cut out for them going up against this relentless defense in practice. Hopefully they can figure things out. Yeah, it's not an easy day at the office. It's a defense that's complex. It's a defense returning all of its starters. It's a defense that is obviously way more comfortable this year in this scheme, and to be able to run a lot more moving parts than they were last year in training camp at this very same time that I was here. You were a lot more into vanilla looks last year than you were with this stuff. You were a lot less of the stack boxes and simulated pressures last year in training camp practices I saw versus this year. McDonald is, he's been driving on the streets and he's kind of operating like he's about to open it up on the highway. That's what it feels like right now with the defense. Can I play nose tackle? You better believe I can play nose tackle. I got some good natural width to me. I got the big rump. Those are always two good points you're looking for on a nose. King says the fact that we're contenders will solely depend on Sam Darnold. He's going to be ever more the important piece on that. That he can be the steady captain at the ship here. You're not going to have to guide us through the treacherous waters and carry the show and be a hero, but you do got to keep the boat afloat. And that's the part that'll be the interesting part to see if he can get that done. Kieran says, I'm tremendously bullish on Milro. I think everybody's going to be surprised. Every running quarterback with a rocket arm in NFL history comes out running and turfing balls. Nothing new or unusual there. No, and look, he's got a lot of potential there, Kieran, to your point on that. There is not a quarterback in this last draft that had a stronger arm. There's not a quarterback in this last draft that had better mobility. I mean, and you got the combination of those two. For a guy with 2 years of starting experience. I mean, when Anthony Richardson came out, you only had 1 year. You had 1 year starting experience with Anthony Richardson. This guy's got 2 whole seasons in 2 different systems. So it's not your everyday normal situation. These evaluations are tough. Even for those folks like myself that can have the most ardent of opinions on quarterbacks and players and everything else, nobody has, the full understanding of it all. It all is a little bit of a crapshoot. It all is a little bit of, at times, the throwing of the darts on the board. You just try to hope your darts got a little bit more, like it moves through the air a little bit more smoother and right and true, and where you're trying to put it and throw it. But the thing I want to see, Kieran, is to give him that time, and that's where I'm just hoping that they can, because I know so much of the fan base is going to be pushing to not give him that time, especially if Sam struggles. Well, let's get Jalen out there. Let's get him running out there. And I think that this guy needs to work on a couple of things. I saw it today in the delivery, heel clicking, stepping in the right direction of the throw. I mean, this goes back to anybody that's played from baseball to football, where you step, you throw to where you step. I step here, the ball's going here. I step here, the ball's going there. If I step over here and I try to throw the ball there, I'm going to end up seeing the ball split the difference in where it actually ends up going. So still even today, I saw him on some of the steps where something I saw backtracking with him in college is that the foot doesn't go to the right spot where he's throwing the football. He tends to get the foot a little too widened out a little bit on there. But he's working on this stuff, and you can see, Kieran, you can see the shadow of that, what he's developing for, what he's trying to get towards. You can see the work that he's putting in there on it. And I love how quick that delivery is there. That up and out stuff is so hard for quarterbacks to do. There's been so many QBs we've even watched in recent years who have to get that wind up to get the power. They've got to get the full spin around the arm like this full turn. And with him, it's up and then it's out. And I like that part of his game, and that bodes well with his development. If he can get the lower half kind of fixed on some of the footwork, you might be working with something there. The kid might have that light bulb fully go on. Megan says, I hear that, B, and yes, I know he's long-term. I just think there was better areas to use the pick for, but as I said, I'm keeping an open mind and hoping for the best. I am as well, and I tend to agree with you. I mean, where I stand on it too as well with that type of stuff. I find myself in alignment there. Kieran says, we have a game going. I like the game to get ahead so I can skip the incredibly nauseating amount of ads. I like to do that too. If I'm watching a game, I do the same thing. Larry says, so many things have to go right for the offense to be successful. Kubiak, Darnold, O-line, K9, and durability. It's a lot to ask. It is. It is, Larry. And the team's in a little bit of a wait-and-see approach this year, I think. It's part of the reason I think you're sitting on so much cap space as you are. You kind of want to see how this thing develops, how it shakes out. Give it a little bit of time to see what form it's going to take as we round through training camp, perhaps. But there's a lot that's got to kind of offensively lock in step. I think the good news is that there are 2 other parts of this that can kind of carry the water a little bit, Larry. One being that you're going to have potentially a dominant defense. And a dominant defense is definitely a helpful item to have in your back pocket for a struggling offense. The other thing is that the special teams should be pretty good. So maybe it can relieve a bit of the pressure and the need of what the offense has to produce, that those other parts of the team can be that good. But well said, man. You got a couple things that all got to come together at sort of once for this thing to click and take off this season at least. Jose in the house. Sports Talk with Jose Rodriguez. Good to see you, my man. He says, am I the only one not certain about who our receivers are going to be? I think there's some open-ended no, I think you're right to wonder about who they're going to be there. You have White's in the mix still there. You have Derek Young is on this roster still. We don't know where Bobo's going to fit. You have a need for X. I think the only certainty you have at the wide receiver position as it stands right now, Jose, is Cooper Kupp, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I think that and I think you're only at the most going to keep 5 receivers this year, so it's really 2 other spots. But you have kind of brought in a multitude of guys, Jose, that could be potentially those guys. Ricky White, Horton, a couple of other back end guys that were out there today making some plays here and there. So you do have a few guys, but nobody's really, I think, risen up and sort of taken the job and said, this thing's mine right now. It's early in camp, and we'll see how this goes. Maybe we'll need to get into preseason, but I think that there's a big question mark there, Jose. Part of why I do think people are kind of potentially interested in looking at that Terry Mclaurin trade. Thinking that, well, the receiving course maybe a little lightened up right now. It's a little weakened right now. It's good to see you, Jose. And my people, please do sub up over there to Jose on Sports Talk with Jose, or one of our main mods in the house here. Get him up over that 1,000 mark there. Daniel, how would you feel on extending Cross right now? I'm all for it. He's been good enough, still young. Seems really low chance we would regret it to me. I find myself in the same ballpark. I know it's not an exciting answer, Daniel, but I just basically find myself in the same ballpark. I think that there is also the possibility of this, that the cost does significantly raise next season, because he's due to be paid right now after completing 3 years of his rookie contract. And if he gets now through a 4th year, like we just saw with Rashawn Slater with the Chargers, you wait that extra year. The Dallas Cowboys, where they rated that extra year for Dak Prescott on his 3rd round contract. Well, now the price goes up exponentially. And you're paying to kind of do that wait and see thing. And versus being able to get him on a pretty market correct contract as it stands right now. I think the things that people ding him for, Daniel, are, the pressure rates from last year. Not the pressure rates, but the number of pressures. And to me, that's where I come back and I go, look, he was still a top 10 rated left tackle by PFF. The number of pressures is more of an example of how much you were throwing the freaking football. We were top 3, I think, in the NFL for attempts on the season. That's going to create, for guys that start every game of the year, probably a situation where they're going to be up amongst the leaders in the league as far as pressures allowed, because you're just throwing the ball too damn much. You're being too damn predictable as an offense. And so I don't hold as much into those pressures. I think once you get a more functional offense, better parts around him, I think you're going to see him round out into the final form of what he's going to be as a player, which is at the very least kind of a perennial Pro Bowler kind of guy. So I would do that too. I don't see where the downside comes in either on this one. He's been good from you. He's been at least solid to good for you from day one. He should only at least go a little bit up from here. Not an old player. You drafted him really young. To me, it seemed kind of like a no-brainer. Hawks would have, if it was the Hawks would have picked up Martin Lawrence instead of Demarcus Lawrence, they would have been a lot funnier. Kieran says the difference between feel versus real is a definite thing that exists. Yeah, 100%. Feel can be overpowering, right? Feel can be overpowering. It's like emotions. Yeah, we're not keeping 9 receivers. No, no way. Daniel said, I haven't heard MVS's name yet in training camp. Is he playing or is he making any plays? He made one really nice play today, in cutting route on Devon Witherspoon. Witherspoon was really tight in coverage, and he reached out away to go pluck the ball out away. If he let the ball get into his body, Devon Witherspoon would have knocked it free. But he reached out, was actually able to pluck the ball in and reel it in with strong hands. So didn't see a lot of Marquez on that. I think he made one other catch on the day. But it was impressive, the one he did, and it was on Witherspoon. Time. on my side. Nitro, half of me is scared to make a trade for Parsons, but the other half of me wants him so bad. And man, this defense would be scary good, but Cowboys will probably re-sign him anyway. I'm in the same place. I oscillate in the same nature, Nitro, where I'm just like, I don't know. I kind of want it, but I know why it'd be just completely insane, but I kind of still want it, but I know it'd be completely insane. I do think that the final part of what you said is where it does come down, where I end up, when I have the torn back and forth thing, you just come down to the final conclusion of, yeah, but Jerry's just going to sign him. Jerry signs all of his guys, and he ends up giving all the money up. Like he talks the big game about hardlining and all that, but you know, he chickens out every time. CRs is talking about Neal. He was a total bust in New York Giants, and they gave up on him. Would interest me as a project to transfer to right guard, left guard. Could maybe see him do the Micah Becton thing, to your point, CR. That's what Becton did, of course, was Jets tried to get him at left tackle, and Eagles were able to talk him into playing right guard, and he found a home. Went out there and was able to sign a nice contract this offseason off the back of that nice year for the Eagles. So I'm open to it. You do have to keep him on the roster at that point, and with how tight the team is with the offensive line, it's going to be hard to just have kind of a project guy that you can't trust on the field, because you're going to probably have to call upon a lot of this depth this year on that offensive line. But I'm not against that as an idea. He's a big man. It's a very big man. Kieran B, honest opinion. What are your thoughts with the offense struggling with our D-line? D-Law in the backfield, you said in your video often today, good that our O-line getting these reps or bad omen? I would definitely say, Kieran, that check with me after the 3 days of having the total time to look at the team in full, because it's obviously a bit of a sample size today in practice where, you know, I've heard that they've had good days of practice. And so maybe I just happened to have been out there for one of the off days for the offense, and the defense was just so hot. And, you know, you don't want to take any kind of conclusions away from that, being that it is just the one day. We're just a week into them having the pads on. There's no doubt that the defense was highly dominant over the offense today. That part is not to be, I think, undersold in any way. It does just come down to, then at that point, was it a sample size of a day off thing I saw? Was it then the defense that good, or was it the offense still finding its footing in a new scheme with a new quarterback? Was it all of that together a little bit? Probably all that together is the complicated, nuanced answer on it, you know, rather than just being able to pinpoint to one thing. But it's going to be something to pay attention to over the next couple of days. Tomorrow's practice and then the Saturday scrimmage. Where's this? Is the offense having some more bright moments? Are we hitting some deep plays down the field? Are we getting a little bit of that mixed in? That's going to be where I'm going to be a little bit more able to give you an answer on that. That's on more stable ground after I get a little bit more time to be sure with it. But I think the defense is legit. You're returning all these starters. You got 15 guys on this defense that started last year. You added Mclaurin, who looks pretty impactful right out the jump with his second interception there today. You added Demarcus Lawrence that you didn't have last year, and you're feeling his effect there today. I mean, it really could be, Kieran, where it does come down. I'm not trying to just sit on the fence on this one, but it could just be, too, that this defense is just that dominant. We know that they were one of the better defenses down the stretch last year. To return all of your starters, to add on top of those starters with quality parts, it would theoretically only make you better. And that's what I was seeing today, was a team that was defensively all that much more better. I was seeing Macdonald with that 7 straight blitzes and stacked boxes that he called over and over and over again, just daring the offense to find an answer, and they had nothing. He's comfortable. He's rolling. His musicianship is at a height. So I think that there's a big part of this that is the defense being dominant. I'm not letting the offense off the hook here, but I just think the defense is going to be that good this year. Says I can't type today. I have those days. It's a tiny pad. No sign of Jarek Reed out there for Carmen. Didn't see anything real flashing with that. They're rotating through the back end guys a little bit, quite a bit, but I can't remember spotting him. Yeah, Jarrell looked okay out there at left tackle, King. I don't remember him getting beat hard or badly over there. Right tackle seemed to be more of an issue, and that issue was as much of anything because of Lawrence over there on that side. Deuce says if we picked up Parsons, that'd make Dirty Hawkins, D-Law as former Cowboys. Some would have to make a foam Seahawks headpiece shaped like a cowboy hat. Ha! Right, we're the offshoot of the Cowboys now. Cowboys West. That's right. We'll be your little minor leagues. Wait, that didn't sound right. I missed your super chat. I'm sorry, feed me. I did miss your super chat. My bad. Thank you for the 17 months as a Ring of Honor member. It says, missed last show, but on John's contract, remember Tyrese Knight, no one thought he would be good. I like when your general manager trusts your head coach outside of O-line. WGM. Yeah, well, and to your point, it's a lot of general managers don't have that same trust. A lot of those general managers aren't working with their head coaches in the same way as intensely. You know, you're going to like the players that I give you is more of kind of an attitude that I think perpetuates itself. So John, I think by working with Pete through the years and being kind of underneath Pete, kind of forced him to have to develop this muscle as a GM in the way of finding that common ground with your head coach. But it's part of what makes him a really good general manager is that I think there's a lot of GMs that are just kind of high on the hog and that their stuff don't stink and they think the problems are all with the coaching and not with the players they draft. They drafted the right team. You just didn't coach them right. You know, that kind of attitude. I don't think John operates in that way. And I think he's got a lot of trust in his coach and he wants it to be an inner working relationship. It just doesn't really work as a GM that you're just going to hand these players to your coach and say, make it work. It's stupid. It's silly. Have your coach also part of the process and make sure that you're listening to some of what they want as well. Because you want them sold on those players too. You want them excited about those players as well, rather than forcing someone that they don't really want. I've had a lot of stories that end up with head coaches just not playing players that they get forced to have, even if those players are really talented. Daniel says, thoughts on what you're seeing of our new scheme out there, plus Darnold? Really a heavy amount of working the short passing game. Last year, there was a lot of shot plays down the field from Grubb, a heavy amount of trying to work that over and over again. Today's practice was a lot about working the short stuff, it felt like, and a little bit of intermediate stuff within that too as well. So just they're running a lot of short in-breaking concepts. The two-man route stuff that they're running at the start of the day, Daniel, where you'd have basically just the quarterback and a two-man route over here, and then two guys covering the two-man route. They both kind of sit down at the same spot. The quarterback picks one or the other to throw to. Then that guy comes over and picks and tries to pick up both of the defenders basically on one block if he can, because you can kind of isolate both defenders that way. So yeah, they're running a lot of the short stuff that I saw. There was a good amount of outside zone. There was some inside stuff too. So they worked everything all over the place as far as the run game goes. No real fly sweeps. I don't think I remember a pitch play. So that was as much of what I saw from the offense today. There were some rough roads too, though. There's very little yards to be had in the ground game. The passing attack wasn't very dynamic. A lot of drops, a lot of dead plays that went nowhere. It was a struggle. Cattle said the 2022 tackle class is owned by Cross. He's become the best of the bunch, that's for sure. Honest opinion, what are your thoughts with the offense struggling with our D-line? Oh, sorry, I just answered that. I got that one. Carmen says, Micah Parsons would be unreal. I would need to pinch myself continuously. I probably would too. I don't know what I would do. I'd be freaking out. Rain says, that was watching Hall of Fame game. Trey Lance looks real good. Maybe a sneaky pickup for the Steelers, Jets, etc. next year. Hey, I love me some Trey Lance. I don't know if you do that, Rain, but I've always been, that's one of my misses quarterback-wise over the last few years. I've been pretty right on most of my QBs, guys that I've targeted and isolated, said this guy will be good or that guy will be bad or this guy will take time. With Trey, he was a guy that I did like a lot coming out of college and didn't like a lot of how the Niners set him up in that situation for really what I considered to be failure more than success. He's got some great physical skills. If he can just develop into them, he's definitely got some physical ability. Kieran says, I hear bad omens in your answer, laughing out loud. trust the league is going to throw blitzes at us until we can beat it at least some of the time. Shoot. It's something to monitor and track, man. I'm hoping not. I'm going to try to keep open-minded, and I'll be much more certain on my opinion, Kieran. Give me 2 days after Saturday. I'll definitely have much more of an ardent, okay, here's where I stand line of things. But right now, as it sits, I'm just a little bit in that mode of uncertainty. But I get it if that's what you're taking from it, because you would like them to look a little bit better than they did today. At least, bring some of the fight there. Daniel W. and Eugenio and the Mariners, thoughts? I think what the Mariners have done at the trade deadline is really nice. They've not really pilfered from the farm system, from the prime guys that you want them to stay away from, allowing them to still trust the process, yet also been more aggressive than they've been in recent years, especially adding to the lineup, not just getting a guy or getting some light hitting guy that you hope suddenly can turn it on, but getting hitters in here that are having good seasons in the midst of playing really well. And, Naylor with the batting average, on-base percentage, the contact rate, that fits really well to this stadium. And Eugenio's played in the stadium before, so he's not going to be thrown off as much by the batter's eye and the big field conditions and the wide fences, He's going to fit in there pretty seamlessly. So the Mariners have widened out their lineup as much as ever over the past few years. And they've done, I think, a good job from my perspective as a fan. Say, okay, you're stepping up to the plate. You're doing some extra stuff to add on. You're not going to just have this Cal Raleigh magical season that you just let go to pot, basically, because you don't want to take on added salary. God forbid you don't get to the playoffs and you come up short because you didn't add a bat or two on a year where these guys are doing it like that. So very good to see. I think he's going to help out the lineup a ton. And it's lengthened out now. It's a lot less of you got 5 easy batters to go through the bottom of the lineup, and then once you get back to the top, it'll get a little bit tough then, which is cool. Phoebe says, Hawks Nest, did you lock in on A.J. Barner at all? He intrigues me. He had a really nice catch, kind of a contested catch moment in practice, which was nice. I didn't see him pop a lot other than that. But he went up and had to make a real physical catch with tight coverage and was able to reel it in. Strong hands. But don't remember another point of him in the practice. It's tough because you got 3 different fields going on at times and you're trying to just eyes bounce from one to the other and try to take it all in. Catalyst says, we'll have these growing pains on our offense, but I think they'll sort it out. I think that they'll get it to a manageable state. And you're not going to be a top 10 offense, but can you get to a middle of the road place? Can you be functional? I think they can be that. We'll see. Cartman says, I appreciate his research and his level of engagement. The hours of long streams are unreal. Laughing out loud. 12 hours has to be a record. I think we went 14 once, Cartman. I think we might have gone 14 once, but was it 18? I can't even remember. We've done some long ones here for sure. That is for sure. I do go hard. I appreciate that though, Carmen. Thank you. Daniel says, how has Gray's able look specifically? I honestly expect him to look below average for the first half of the year. IG not easy, and it's new to him, but by the end of the year, he can be average in year 1. I think that's a fair assessment of it, Daniel. I thought he acquainted himself pretty well today on some of those inside runs where you're trying to get some push and you were getting like 2 yards in a cloud of dust. And as one of those guys not getting a lot of push on that inside, it's a little bit of the worry that you have, I think, when you take a tackle convert to guard, is that you get the mobility and the athleticism and you can move in space. But you also then tend to get a guy that's maybe going to be, especially in that first year, Daniel, 10, 15, maybe even 20 pounds lighter than what they're going to be once they get into their grown man strength and their full grown in body. And so I wonder about that a little bit with him in the run blocking game. He seemed to be a bit better in pass pro, which is, again, what you'd expect on that. I don't think that he was a monstrous problem in there today or had big issues. But I will say it was harder to assess some of that stuff just because there was so much of the stacked boxes in there. And you got 12 personnel then on top of that at times. And so you've got all of these bodies condensed down there that you're trying to see from the berm. And it just becomes a bit of a pile of bodies a little bit at times down there. They're running like goal line stuff too. So it would just become even more like, as Mike was talking about in his presser, they were running a lot of situational stuff. So you get to the goal line and then it's just a big pile of bodies down in there. It's very hard to tell much of anything is going on in those moments. Because I've been on 7 to 8 hours stream, Brandon. Fun times. Let's go. We gotta every once in a while we gotta throw one of those at you guys. Kieran says, if we can't be a top 10 offense, I feel like this team has to be a top 10 rushing attack to not be railed this season personally. Just not sure how likely that is. I think that's fair. Fair questions all around on that, Kieran, and I wanted the same things, and I don't have a good answer on it. I think you're right. I think the offensive success is not going to be driven by how they pass protect. I think the pass protection will be a bit of the come and go thing. The thing that can really more dictate the success is, can you find more consistency in running the ball? If you run the ball more consistency, you're passing left. You're running the ball more consistency, you're more in third and shorts, third and makeables. You're moving the chains more often. You're getting more points with it. So I go more than anything else to how you run the ball is what is really, like you say, going to determine the success of this, in a lot of ways, team, Kieran. Because I think the defense is going to be what it's going to be. The special team is going to be what it's going to be. But we don't know what the running game is going to be exactly, or the offense with that. And that's the kind of the last thing to get that up over that hump of potential that we see in this team. Larry says, if you had to choose one player on offense to have a truly breakout, dominant season, who would you predict? Breakout, dominant season. It's a good question. I'd probably be split, Larry, a little bit between JSN or Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's going into a contract year. He's got a lot on the line this year. He'll get maybe the best scheme and the best blocking that he's had here since he's arrived. He's a guy that I go to pretty heartily here, as far as thinking that's the one that to me stands out a bit there with it. As far as the other guy, offensively speaking, would be JSN, because so much of his productivity, of course, kind of came, he got to like 1,200 yards there, basically not really having it turn on fully for him until like week 7 or 8 or something. So if he's a full year season of what he gave you last year, start to finish, it's a guy that maybe get you up to 1,500 yards on the year from the slot. So one of those two guys would be my choice. Rainey says, I hope they can get Bradford in there because the O-line is on the small side for trying to be a run-based offense. It's possible. Nice thing with Bradford, too, is you get the athleticism with the size there. Of course, too, with that, Rainey, this is an offense that's kind of synonymous with having undersized linemen. They do it almost a bit from a purposeful standpoint in order so that you can get the better mobility. And that there's a lot more blocks on the move in this system, so it just leans towards wanting those guys to be a little bit sometimes smaller, more athletic. But they're not the biggest dudes. You're right about that. Martinez was okay today, Snail. He had a couple nice runs in there. He ran solid, strong. Didn't quite look as big in the pads as that. Maybe it's the number 22. Number 22 just makes you look a little smaller. Dune says, might be a dumb question. During field goals, when Stoll is snapping, is the normal O-line out there with him, or is it all special teams guys? I did not take notice. I would think that you're going to do it as the guys that'll be out there during the year, Dune, because you want those guys to rep it out. Kieran, oh yeah, B, that's exactly what I mean. The whole team will rely on this run game. Defense is going to look bad, and if we're 3 and outing on our 30 every drive, laughing out loud. Yeah, well, even a great defense can hold on only for so long, to your point, if the offense is sheer and utter ineptitude. And that's a possibility of an outcome this year. You've not locked everything down to be able to eliminate that as a possibility. You just haven't. But it does come down to run the ball, and running it effectively will drive a lot of this team's success. I mean, if we're walking out this year, Kieran, with knowing that, like, if I walk into it and I don't tell you any other stat, and I tell you the stat that Kenneth Walker came out of this with 1,400 yards this year, I think I would say that that's a playoff team here in Seattle. That one base stat could tell me so much. That you ran the ball consistency, that you were dynamic, that you were able to stay with it throughout the year. So it really is a key, man. I agree. Kieran says, respectfully, we cannot talk about the game in chat. Please give me a little time to let the ads be skippable. Oh, okay. We got I see it. That's what you're talking about. I was like, what do you mean on the game and the theme? Like, what is it? We're gonna probably wrap up here. We got a little hour and a half on in today, so I'm gonna probably put the button on that. It's kind of a good time anyway right now, Kieran. I think we will be back tomorrow on Friday after Friday's practice. So I will be trying to get live here with you guys again tomorrow and chop it up with you guys on that. We'll at least get a reaction video out of training camp practice as soon as it wraps up tomorrow, like we did today. But we will probably put a little bit of a button on that one, just kind of an in and out one today. I got to go get some dinner. I'm a little bit hungry here on my side of it. Femi, are we still seeing Jaron Reed at nose in training camp? I admittedly didn't look for that as much today, Femi. I will try to take a look for that tomorrow and try to lock in on that a little bit more. I do believe I saw Byron Murphy at the 3 tech today, though. I do believe I saw that there. I want to say. Yeah, Damian Martinez is going to be, I don't know if he's RB2, but he probably ends up getting some snaps this year. We know that about this running back room is that the third running back ends up at one point or another getting some carries. So we're probably going to see him at some point. He didn't look bad today. He hit a couple of holes nice. There just wasn't a lot of holes open up for these guys. The running backs could only do so much. Walker had a nice run that he was able to bust out. Or it was a screen play. I think they caught the defense on a screen. Ricardo just saw this, not too worried about a dislocated finger, just wanted to drop by and give some uploads to the Hawks Nest. Well, thank you for doing that. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, not a monstrous deal as far as anything infecting Cross. He'll be fine. He's going to be good long term. I think we're just a little bit more worried about the chemistry continuity factor that you've got a little bit of a lot of moving parts on this offensive line right now. It would be nice to maybe have a few of these parts kind of settle in and develop within each other and get on the same page for game one on that. But we may have to wait a little bit more longer on that side of it with it, Ricardo. HHG, you getting the chowder from Pike Market. I will be going probably down to Pike Place Market when I do my little walk around on Saturday. But I don't know if I'm going to get chowder. I got a lot of food options down there, HHG. I don't know. I'll be a little bit like a kid in a candy store, like a kid in the Willy Wonka chocolate factory. There's so many little good places to go eat down there that I'll be like, I don't know if I want here or I want to go over there. Be a tough pick. I heard he's great in the pass pro that could get Martinez on the field because we know K9's not the best at it. Yeah, that's a pathway, and Martinez has been really good in pass pro at times. He's got the body and the size for it to do it. Charbonnet's been really good with that historically in years past as well. But then if Martinez can do it well, he becomes the number 2 guy right behind Charbonnet to take in that role if anything happens with Charbonnet. The more you can do, the more opportunities you're going to eventually get as a player. Throw a fish, B. I'm down to throw a fish. Reigns is honestly Cross, probably the most prepared guy on the line. He's played more than anyone. I'm sure he's got things locked down pretty good. Well said. Beautifully put. I would agree with that. The guy's been starting just about every game since he's been here, with the exception of a few missed games here and there. He's going to be pretty good to go. He's in a contract year. I'm sure he got himself into his best shape. You're going to be able to keep him in really good shape body-wise and run him through the exercises and get him, fully trained up as far as that goes, even with the finger. So there is a good side to this. He doesn't have to be like, if it's a high ankle sprain where the guy's just got to basically put his foot up in a cast and sit there for the next 3 weeks. That's not going to be the case. So it's as good as an injury news situation as you could hope to have on this kind of front of things with that Cross injury. Kieran says, how can K9 be bad at pass protection this long in the league? Laughing out loud, honestly. I think it's more of a build thing, Kieran. He's 5'9" and kind of like 205, really. I would guess that he probably plays right in that territory. And you've got him trying to take on big defensive tackles and 240-pound linebackers in the hole. And when I've watched him in the past, it's not that he's got bad technique. It's just that, he just doesn't have the size to hold in there to do it. He's just not big enough. And that's at least how it seems. So I think he can kind of do it. It's just that you can sometimes overwhelm him in that size front of it because he's just not the biggest. He's not the biggest of guys, comparatively speaking, to what he's taken on. He's well built, but he's a well-built 5'9" guy. You give up 40 pounds, you give up 40 pounds. Weight classes for a reason, Whereas Charbonnet, he's out there, I think, on game day more 225, maybe even sometimes pushing that 230 mark, where it's it's maybe only a 10-pound difference. I don't know for sure. Did Maurice Jones pancake dudes? He had some highlight moments of doing it. He did. I don't know that he was like a dog with it, but he had some decleater moments out there with it. He was like that extra small though, where he could always win the leverage battle and he's like 5'6". So he was always getting underneath your pads. And he was built like a fire hydrant. Like Drew was probably legit at 5'6", like he was probably 225, 230. Like Drew was like thick. He was tiny, but he was a lot. He was a lot back there. No, man. All right, well, let's wrap it up on that note. Again, if you can for me, hit that like button. I appreciate it. Helps out the channel, helps me grow, helps me show. And I really thank you guys for doing that. It does help me out on that way of things. We will be back tomorrow with training camp breakdown of practice, just following practice. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of a quick live stream after that if we've got some time on that side of it. I really appreciate you guys watching today. Thank you for hanging on with me here in the hotel room. Hopefully the audio is not too janky for you guys on it, as I'm doing kind of the travel mic here. So it's not the normal, typical setup, but you guys have been very kind with me on that. So I guess it's hanging in there okay. It's holding form all right. We will be back, though, very quickly on this. So we've got training camp starting to roll along here. We're starting to make up some ground. We've got next week with the Raiders and the preseason action on deck. That's coming down the line on this. So things are starting to heat up slower and slower and slower. We got practice tomorrow. We got 2 o'clock on Saturday. Of course, we're going to be out at the brewery. Posted up all the details over on my Twitter page at SeahawksNester, so you can go over there and check out the details. We're going to be out there at the brewery. We're going to be out there at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Going to be having a good time. Going to be on, I think, Dan Vienza's channel and chopping it up with, we got Mookie coming in there from Field Goals, Bryce Coots coming out there from Hawks Zone. And so it's going to be a good time. We're going to have a lot of fun out there. Please, you can come out and join us. Come out and have a beer. Be hanging out. I'm going to be kind of walking around too. Be at the scrimmage. So if you happen to see me at the scrimmage too, please do say what's up on that side of it. But we're going to keep on rolling here. Keep it rolling and keep it going. Having a great time being back home. It's always just kind of puts a smile on my face being back in Seattle, having grown up here and being back up around home. Good to see the people out and about and all the Seahawks gear. It just got me just stoked and kind of locked in for the season. So I hope you are as well. I thank you for watching today. I will be back very soon, but until next time, please don't you ever forget. Yeah, the offense is struggling, okay? But the defense, the defense, you know what I mean? Okay, the offense, but the defense, yeah, they're doing stuff. So don't you forget. Maybe they're just going to dominate everybody through the defense. That's what the Legion of Boom did. We did 10 years ago. Why can't we do it again? Why can't we do it again? So don't you forget. Don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.